Hello there, this is Steve here in Sydney of the lay gnosis website truebluehealer.com, where in just 20 minutes you can get some physical evidence of assistance from a second intelligence that can help you work your way through, navigate your way through the veritable blizzard of mis and disinformation that basically floods your perceptions continuously, and it seems to be happening at an ever-growing rate these days. So, that's something you can do in just 20 minutes. It's for free. You just do the beginner's tour. And I'm going to talk about that very issue today of mis and disinformation and what it can do to your perceptional inputs. Okay? I just received a remarkable PDF file of particularly arcane information, but potentially very useful and explanatory to anyone who's a truth seeker. I received it from Chris in the UK, who's a good pen friend and a very enthusiastic head kicker of pseudo-skeptics. One thing that he does is, in his tunnelling through all the mis and disinformation, he often finds little bits and pieces of arcane knowledge which escapes mainstream thinking. And that's the blizzard I was referring to at the beginning, that the snow job being done on you is the blizzard of mis and disinformation. That you're basically trying to walk through a snowstorm and you don't know what's what. Okay, now, Chris found this thing, it's a PDF file, and I'll give you a little précis of it, and I'll link the file beneath this video, and I'll give you a little introduction to it, and I'll put some pictures from the PDF file into this video, and I'm going to show you something remarkable, and it's about how crafted is your reality. How crafted is your reality? I mean, after all, you probably still think, if you're an average, nice, normal person, you probably think a lot of things are spontaneous and happen by chance, and things happen spontaneously. Well, there's a lot of evidence they don't. And Chris's PDF file that he found is a thesis by somebody. I'll get the name for you. I'll put it in this video somewhere. And it's about one of these iconic figures we have in our consciousness, thrust into our consciousness by the BBC, the Tavistock people, the Big Bang Theory people, that sort of stuff. And it's about Stephen Hawking, you see, and how useful he is to maintain the materialist and atheist mindset that the elites want us to have to maximise their position and power and money making. Stephen Hawking is a peculiar person because he's fated as one of the greatest mathematicians of all time, yet he's never done anything. He's never predicted anything that led to a discovery. And all the stuff he talks about was never based on any observations in the sky. So he's credited with being one of the greatest thinkers on black holes and quasars and things like that. Though black holes have never actually been found. They are utter codswallop, right? They live only in the imaginations of a handful of very prominent, iconic astrophysicists and cosmologists, of which another one will be Neil deGrasse Tyson, who's allegedly the CEO director of the Smithsonian Institute and now directing some other prestigious institute, simultaneously while he's flying around the world doing talk show interviews about science, going rah, rah, rah for the Big Bang and how wonderful science and technology is, you see. And part of this military-industrial complex thing will be vast expenditures of money which are granted by governments thanks to permission from the public, which is tacitly given in exchange for all the lovely Big Bang shows on the television, the wonderful exploding graphics displays on your high-definition ×4 TV screen, where you think, isn't that wonderful? This goes on and on and on. There's a whole lot of people involved in this circle of personalities, which all seem to be decidedly fake and decidedly created for public consumption to keep the money flow coming out of government handouts. So the Large Hadron Collider, which is supposed to find the most elusive particles, which occurred just 1 microsecond after the Big Bang, that's had $16 billion spent on it, the LHC in Switzerland, okay? And so far, after $16 billion, it hasn't been found. But that buys a lot of money for shareholders and buys a lot of jobs for scientists, etc., pseudo-scientists, I would call them. Lawrence Krauss is one of these people. He's a pseudo-skeptic. So is Neil deGrasse Tyson. And so, also a pseudo-skeptic is one Stephen Hawking, the much feted, all over the BBC astronomer, cosmologist extraordinaire. In a previous video we covered created characters before that are created larger than life and have so much impact on the public imagination, and the continuous feed of their identities into your awareness that you think they are demigods. Marx, Freud and Einstein. And Einstein has been literally deified, and he complained about that. I said all that in a recent video, you see, and it's quite true. Some people are deified, literally, and after that they don't produce anything because they can't change what the public perception of them is. That happened to Einstein. Now, of a similar ilk, Stephen Hawking is incredibly valuable. He's always held up as the dummy in the wheelchair, talking like a wax dummy, pontificating on all things. And he's very much part of the James Randi scheme of things, where having been a master of mathematics and a great student of black holes and sitting in a wheelchair for 50 years, 60 years, 70 years, whatever it is, he's an expert on afterlife, apparently, without knowing anything about it. He made the big scientific pronouncement that anyone who believes in afterlife is simply scared of the dark. So, yeah. That was his considered scientific opinion and the best thing he ever came out with on afterlife. So very clearly, he's running an opinion-pushing idea, a wheelbarrow, that stop studying afterlife, don't listen to Victor Zammit and the like, such people. Well, Victor Zammit has railed against Stephen Hawking quite a lot, and still does on a pretty regular basis. Stephen Hawking is a shallow pseudo-skeptic who talks about subjects he knows nothing about, just to maintain the materialist atheist mindset that the ruling elites want from us. Okay? Now, a bit more on Stephen Hawking. Here it comes. The way you drive past, say, a club, and you notice the beautifully manicured lawn in front of the club, you admire the club. You might go in simply because of the magnificent lawn you've seen at the front, and you could never make a lawn like that at home. You can't do it, right? So you might be drawn to, I like going in that club. So basically, the finely manicured lawn gets your attention, right? And it's a presentation thing to make money. The thing is, you're probably not aware there's specialised people spend 3 or 4 years at night school learning how to grow grass. Just that. That's how much preparation can go into getting you to walk into the club and spend money. Okay? So, so much more can go into creating an icon like Stephen Hawking. It's truly amazing, but technology and the internet is catching up with some of these created icons, such as Einstein, Freud, Marx and Hawking. He just seems to be another fake entity to be lionised and used as a thing to look up to, while the elites take money out of your pocket for their idiotic science projects. And high-definition cameras are revealing, for example, that Stephen Hawking may be dead and he was replaced mid-career when he died, because he seems to have married somebody at a point in his life where, looking at the pictures, he suddenly got younger around his time of getting married. And That is mysterious. It really is. You don't normally get younger, especially if you have a debilitating disease. But Stephen Hawking has not only got younger, he's got blonde hair for a number of years. Starts out with grey and black hair, and then suddenly gets blonde hair, and then even his eyebrows are blonde, you see. And the face isn't quite the same. It's rounder, more fleshed out, younger looking. Now, that's not normally the case with people who have got Lou Gehrig's disease, a neuron disease. Normally it kills people in 2 years or 18 months. The original Lou Gehrig died in about 18 months, okay? The same disease Stephen Hawking is alleged to have. He's lasted 40 years in the public eye. So something's not quite right. He doesn't have that disease, or there's more than one of them. I know this sounds like crackpot conspiracy theory, and I do confess, even I am not very good at facial recognition, but the photos presented and discussed in this PDF file are quite striking, and it's looking like there's been a switch. And some pictures have been pulled off the net so you can't get hold of them anymore. But this particular person went out of his way to stand there in the blizzard of mis and disinformation and ignore everything except Stephen Hawking and follow his career and not allow himself to be distracted by all the crap thrown at him from all directions by the system around him. And he shows you young pictures of Hawking, shows you middle-aged pictures of Hawking, and he's getting pretty... he's aging, you can see that. Then suddenly he gets married and he starts getting younger and looking quite different with blonde hair. It's worth looking at, worth a careful study. It's going to be linked below this video, and it's very much food for thought. Okay, I commend it to you. Thanks again, Chris, for supplying this. It gives you great insight into how Tavistock will go in creating these entities that brainwash us all. For example, I'll give you another one. Tavistock created the Beatles. Did you hear that? I'll say it again. Tavistock created the Beatles. Their worldwide success was due to the fact that Tavistock decided to promote them. I've got a link for that. And some of the words of their songs were coded messages. And this surprised me, but it links up with something in my distant memory. There's a Beatles song that you've probably heard of. She's got a ticket to ride and she don't care. RYDE is a little place, it's a suburb on the Isle of Wight. I have been there, and I remember seeing that you could get a bus to ride, RYDE. I remember seeing that on Isle of Wight buses, you see. Anyway, it turns out, in the early 60s, Tavistock wanted to basically demolish the conservatism that was still hanging on from World War II, the short haircuts and 2.4 children per person, etc. They wanted to demolish that, so they made 50 million LSD tablets in a CIA company, gave them away all over America, and promoted a number of satanic rock groups, which were all about defiance of authority and breaking moral barriers that were hangovers from World War II conservatism, you see. So, she's got a ticket to ride and she don't care. A lot of these lyrics were written by somebody else to program us. And RYDE, RYDE, was the place where the very first abortion clinic was built in England. Did you know that? In the early 60s. It's all about free love, you see. So, that's how much you can be programmed and not know it. Many of the Beatles songs are written by somebody else. I've got a link for that, you see. So, that's another example of someone else living in your consciousness, occupying your head, occupying your mind, popping up in your thoughts frequently. You're always reminded by it. You can't get away from the Beatles, can you? And they were created to live there in your reality, okay? You can thank Tavistock for that. That's a Rockefeller group, headquartered in England. Rockefeller's is the front for Rothschilds. Okay? So, next time you think something spontaneous, like a lovely song you hear, they also created the Rolling Stones, apparently. They wrote words for the lyrics for all the satanic anti-authority songs of the Living Dead, the Rolling Stones, and some other groups that I can't even remember. So, created reality. Stephen Hawking is part of that. So is Neil deGrasse Tyson, James Randi, Richard Dawkins. All these people, they are a created fake reality around you. Okay? So, distressing, isn't it? So the paranoia being total awareness, well, you have to be really to survive, to filter out all the garbage. So you're being manipulated. I mean, politicians do it all the time. They say there's no accidents in politics. They say that timing is always the giveaway. So we have false flag events and that sort of thing. So here you are surrounded by a whirling mass of fake community and society icons. And they're all fake. Neil deGrasse Tyson is empty, vacuous person who says everyone should be sceptical, but he's not when it comes to the Big Bang. Stephen Hawking says, forget afterlife, you're a bit silly, you're scared of the dark, and he's never invented anything. He's just written books circulated by the Tavistock Institute. By the way, Hawking's book, Brief History of Time, allegedly sold millions of copies because everyone's interested in the meaning of life, you see. And this was said to be sort of like basically the BBC Tavistock explanation of the meaning of life. And it turns out years later we discover nobody ever finished Hawking's book because it disappeared in confusing pseudoscience. And he actually uses a mechanism identical to that of Lawrence Krauss, that the beginning of the Big Bang, the beginning of everything, the world, the universe, was not a single point source. You should stop thinking about that. Don't focus on that. It actually started, the infinite number of possibilities of the beginning of the Big Bang can be anywhere on a large semicircle drawn by this mathematician in your head. Krauss does the same thing, and he admitted it's fraudulent in a video from an Australian university. So Krauss's trick of talking about a curve being the beginning of everything, rather than a point source, is used by Stephen Hawking in the book that no one ever finishes, okay, about A Brief History of Time. It's utter rubbish, okay, and millions are said to have read it. It is suggested that they often lie about the circulation figures to enhance their success, their sales, their penetration into everybody's head, okay? The chattering classes often do see through some of these fake created heroes, and there's much mirth written about, say, the Kardashians, who are just famous for being famous. And they're just, famous, aren't they? They're in your face every day. A few bloggers have tried to figure it out. Why are the Kardashians in your face? You can't get away from them. Even TV presenters are irritated by their continual presence on their teleprompters. That tells you something, doesn't it? They become impatient with the Kardashians because they're just so much false created tripe. Stephen Hawking is one of them, and so is Neil deGrasse Tyson. So is that young news presenter on the BBC, the physicist. The bad physicist who was stumped by an 8-year-old boy on a radio talk show with a simple question about phases of the moon is now giving his lectures on evolution, like the wonders of evolution. All he's doing is carrying on the atheist materialist paradigm that this is scientific apparently, but he doesn't know how the moon works, and he's obviously been groomed to replace Attenborough. And his working class accent offends me as well. So we're actually going downhill with the mind control coming out of the BBC. I can't see things getting any better. I mean, even NASA seems to be a front group for these people. NASA publicly says over and over again, and they repeat the same thing mysteriously. They say every time they go to a new planet with a space probe, one of their leading scientists says, oh well, we don't have a clue what's going on here, it's back to the drawing board. Back to the drawing board, back to the drawing board. Said about 3-4 planets in a row. But guess what they do? They never go back to the drawing board and look at their initial theory, their initial assumptions. They never do that. So it's kind of like a play. They're playing at science. They're not really doing science. Life was discovered on Mars 50 years ago by Viking, and they just didn't want to believe it because it was too early in the piece. They didn't want to find life on Mars, on another planet, so early in their career, where they hoped to wring trillions of dollars out of the public purse by stretching out the discovery of life. But it was confirmed finally, after decades of research, that life was discovered on Mars by Viking some 50 years ago, bacteria that was, and NASA employed a whole bunch of pseudo-skeptics to ridicule the real findings that Viking made, okay? So even NASA's part of this scientific incompetence that goes on and on and on from planet to planet to planet. They just keep saying, oh, well, back to the drawing board, but we got some lovely pictures, didn't we? And we all go, ooh, ah, ooh. And it's back to the drawing board for the next planet, and it doesn't really matter if they can't explain it. Trillions of dollars spent, they're getting careers out of it, and we just go, ooh, ah, ooh, at the high-definition screen. Aren't they lovely pictures? Isn't that remarkable? Look at that. I think it's just the way we like sparkling jewellery, like dumb Pacific Islanders being given jewellery by Captain Cook as he went everywhere to win their support and their cooperation. The natives never knew what they were buying into, and we are treated the same with sparkling television images of planets and the like. Hubble is a big contributor to that with all the spectacular photos that NASA can't understand. They admit it's back to the drawing board with those too. They just can't explain why planets and stars seem to form in long strings, filaments of coloured substance, which is actually electricity, but they can't bring themselves to say that because that's not politically correct. You've got to say magnetic field constriction, which is not possible without electric current, you see. So, but what they say is dictated by Tavistock and the atheist materialist mindset, the simple gravity universe. So here I am rabbiting on about a whole lot of things which are connected in what seems to be a giant, ongoing, professional and very well crafted conspiracy to keep you in the dark. Wal Thornhill says the deification of Einstein has held us back 100 years. Have you noticed? It's been back to the drawing board for 100 years. Since Einstein came along, we have not advanced from Einstein. That's because he's got everyone's head tied up in knots. Nobody can think outside the box because of the deification of Einstein. And Hawking is another one who seems to have been replaced with a double around his wedding time on this delightfully interesting PDF that's linked under this video. So I'm hoping I've given you a lot of things to think about, and I'll leave you with it, okay? I'll put some pictures at the end of this video to give you an insight into the Hawking getting younger as he gets older. Okay, end of this video. Here they come.